So I started this YouTube journey, late 2021, early 2022. And one of the first things this was kind of kicked off this whole thing was building out this shop and building out this garage space into kind of what it is today. This started as a bare bones, stud walled, basically 2-car wide, 2-car deep, 4-car garage, and just a barn. In fact, that's how we call it. We just refer to it as the barn. So I started to build this out and make it a combination of a shop, an office, some living space, some lounge space, looking at maybe a podcast studio space. And so kind of just doing all kinds of different things with this, given that we live in warmer climate now, and I was going to spend a lot of time out here. I thought insulating it and getting air conditioning was really important. So March 22, I installed one of these MRCOOL DIY mini splits. And I had some questions, I think, about its longevity. I wasn't sure. I don't know. I'm just kind of an old school guy, and I just thought these things can't really last that long, right? These old DIY kits and make it easy. It's nice. It's easy to install. But, how good are they really? So here we are 2 years later, and I thought, that might be kind of a neat review. How well has it worked? What is it? What are the pros and cons of it? What have I liked? What have I not liked? What would I do differently if I was going to do it over again? And there's a few of those things, one of which I need to change pretty soon here before summer rolls back around. And kind of how I've used it, the different components, how I set it up. Maybe it'll help you with your setup down the road. All right, well, I guess first and foremost, I want to talk about its longevity. I'll admit, when I bought it, I had reservations. It took me a while, did a little research. I actually almost bought a different one, but it would have needed some HVAC person to come out and charge it. And it was going to cost quite a bit more and time, and I was trying to get this done quickly. And I'd seen a lot of good reviews on it. I was just skeptical. And I did pull the trigger on it, and I'll tell you, I've actually been really happy with it. I've had almost zero issues, and what issues I have had, I think, are pretty universal for units like this. I'll go through that here in a minute. But generally, though, you forget it's here. Like any other really solid AC unit, 2 years later, no leaks. It has a very minimal impact on our electric bill. I'll admit we haven't tracked it real close, but just looking at our electric bill overall, since we installed this, it's fluctuated up and down. So it hasn't really even gone up an appreciable amount. Now, we did get a whole bunch of other stuff done. We got a new AC unit installed for the house that was much more efficient. We did some other work with some of the other larger electrical draws to manage electricity. So I have a hard time giving you a clear picture of how much electric bill went up. That's obviously it's not zero, right? It went up a little, but I didn't find, this is foam insulated, ceiling and walls. So it's very efficient in here. So it doesn't require a lot of extra climate control, but it hasn't been one of those things that's been like, holy smokes, that thing just eating our electric bill alive. Placement. Let's talk about placement. So I put it, this is kind of the center of this wall. It's actually a little closer to this side than this side. The window over here is the center, and obviously I'm not going to put it on the window. So this was the best location for it to provide. I have office space over here and the garage over here, and so it provided the most centralized location. This is the 18,000 BTU unit. It's about 1,000 square foot in here, but it is an open ceiling. I actually kind of wonder in hindsight, would the 24,000 have been even better yet? Because it does seem like it runs a lot. And again, makes me question its longevity when it's running as often as it is, and it's trying to cool a rather large space. But still, I think I'm pretty happy with the 18,000 BTU unit overall. It came with a remote here. It also came with a wall unit, like a wall thermostat unit. I'll show you that here too. And it has a little Bluetooth adapter, a wireless adapter, sorry, that plugs in inside. you can control it from your phone. One thing I have had issues with here in the shop is it gets really dirty. Oof, like really dirty. I need to clean it out again. I have to clean this out pretty regularly. Cobwebs, dust, debris from the garage, stuff floating in the air. So clean these filters out periodically, and those are easy to clean out. I just hit them with a shop vac and then some compressed air and put them back in. I don't wash them. That seems to work pretty well. So it takes 2 minutes, and then just vacuum out that inside. You can see this is pretty dirty as well. Just gets grime on it, and it needs to be cleaned up. Oh, the other reason for the location here versus like on the other side is that this window goes out to the back of the shop here into a covered space. It never gets sun. So it's the coolest air. So I thought on days where I don't need to have the air running, I can just have the fan running, and it can draw air from that and pull that air in from that window. And it's pulling in the coolest possible air. It tends to stay pretty cool back there. It's under a couple of oak trees and an overhang. So unless it's some of the, in the summer, these hot, humid days, it's hot, humid air. So we just close the windows up and keep the air on. But generally, on a relatively decent day, anything 80 degrees or lower, I just open that window and it keeps things pretty cool in here. It has that panel, the like thermostat wall panel. It's over on the right side of my desk. And really, that's just an informational panel. I almost never use it. In fact, I can't remember the time I've used it. So I'm going to say I've never used it. In fact, I think that the kit I bought is discontinued. There's a new version of it, and I think the new kit doesn't even come with one. I just use the app most of the time, but it is handy to look at. It's right here on the corner of my eye. I can look and see what the temperature is. And if it's getting a little extra warm in here, because sometimes it does, sun comes in, and then I can crank it up a little bit. But generally, that's just a room thermometer is all I really ever use it for. It gives me a status. Is it running? What's running? Is it fan? Is it cool? Is it heat? It does have heat. I've used it one time. I didn't actually know when I bought it that it had heat until I came in here one morning and it was warm and it was like 45 degrees outside. And I'm like, whoa. And then I reach up here like, it's blowing warm air. I didn't know it had heat. I didn't buy it for heat. I just bought it for air conditioning. So let's see. I think that's about it on the inside. Let me go around. We'll take you outside and show you how it's installed and set up. And that's actually where some of my more particular things I would do differently, most of them are outside. So we'll take a look out there and I'll show you what I got. All right, so we're outside, and this is the back side of that unit. All the tubing and wiring and all that comes out, and the vent comes out of the wall. I had bought this like conduit, basically like this cover, and it works great, except these are so stiff they don't make that bend. So that's one of the things I think if I had to do differently, I would have planned better, is I would have cut that hole much closer here to the side so that can come straight out into this tube and I could cover up all of this stuff. The pictures I saw on its instructions even and online showed it making a pretty distinct bend. There's actually an elbow piece that comes with this kit as it comes out of the wall, and it shows it coming out and straight down. And I don't know how they do that. I couldn't get those things to bend that tight where I wasn't worried they were going to crimp. So I don't know. I think if I had to do over, I would try to put it on this wall where I could make a straight shot into that protective cover and just hide all that, because it does look kind of janky. Now it's the back side of the barn and nobody's back here, but just if I had to do over, that's what I would do differently. That runs all the way across here and then down to here, and then the excess just gets kind of, you'll see that or not, but it gets kind of just coiled up back here. So it's just wrapped up in a coil, and you just tuck it away. So you get a certain amount of distance, and since it's pre-charged, you can't really cut it, right? So you're just kind of putting the excess back where it isn't in the way. And then I mounted this here. I did buy a bracket to mount this on the wall, because originally I was going to put it out on the front side there so that I could keep this space for storage. And I didn't like that spot. There was some where all this plumbing came in. It'd have to go. This is a shed here. It had to go inside the shed, and this was just a much more convenient place to put it with wiring, with routing plumbing lines and all that. So I am doing it here and just bolting it right to to the concrete floor, so I didn't need the bracket. But by the way, I still have the bracket. If anybody else wants one, hit me up. But this works really well. I just have to keep, you have to keep amount of space out here free, because this does vent, obviously vents out this way, and make sure that everything stays cool. That also comes with a drain, right? So any air conditioning unit has a humidifying or a dehumidifying element to it. That's the conditioning of the air. And so it pulls moisture out of the air, and that drains into into some sort of drain. And what's real common in the warm weather climates, it's really can happen anywhere, but it happens particularly with these warm weather areas, is you get an algae buildup in there. And it gets so hot and humid here that water starts to build up in algae, and it clogs the drain eventually, and you got to blow it out. It's not terribly difficult. In this case, you just hook up a shop vac to it and give it 30 seconds or 40 seconds. It sucks everything out of there. It's pretty small. That drain is right here. And I really appreciate how much it would drain. I just sort of dangled it here. It drains fine. It drains out here into the yard. But it does sit here on the wood for quite a while. This actually, when this is running, you kind of see maybe you can kind of see it on camera. There's a bit of a stain here. This gets really wet like all the time. And it's starting to cause problems with the wood here. You actually see here, we've already got some rot going on the paneling. So I need to fix that before I fire this back up for the summer months. But what I would do differently is I would have routed this out to here and bring it out either into a pit, dig a small hole and put some gravel in and run it into that, which is probably what I'll do now. Put a disconnect here, right by it with a fused link, and that runs back over to an outdoor disconnect over here. And that was fairly simple. And that runs to a breaker panel, an outdoor panel that's out here. That was already there, so I just ran power from that. There was a kind of an ad hoc makeshift generator hookup to it, and so I just repurposed that to give power here, and I'll do a new generator hookup that's a legitimate one, hopefully, or at least more legitimate later. And just ran that conduit along the wall. That ran pretty smooth. This conduit stuff was actually super easy to install, and nice little wasp nest growing up there. And I just wish I could have done more of it. It does keep everything pretty contained. I do get a lot of leaves back here from the oak trees above, and this gets kind of filled with just kind of the breeze blows leaves in here, and they're hard to get out. That's one element of this that's not awesome with all that coil stuff back there. It's hard to keep clean and keep it from getting all junked up. It also does take up a lot of space in this storage area. There's just kind of an extra parking area, outdoor, I guess a lean-to you might call it. And it's not really wide enough for a full car, but you can park some equipment in here, a UTV or lawnmower or some trailer. And it does eat up. You got to keep a good amount of space in front of this to keep it cool. It does limit a little more of the usage of the space than I originally intended. But if I mount it on the outside, I wouldn't have as much of that. But I have a lot of other issues. That was a fair trade-off for me. Some of that kind of forces me to keep this area a little organized, because otherwise left to my own devices with this space, I probably would just fill it full of junk. So maybe that isn't all bad. The kit came with a unit. My kit actually didn't come with this track. I had to buy a separate, but I think the newer versions of these do come with at least some amount of this, but I'll put a link to what I bought here as well. Another option would have been to have mounted it right there against the wall, and then you wouldn't have needed near as much of this, but I wanted to get it out away from there a little bit. All right, I think that's enough for out here. Let's go back inside and I'll take a look at the app. Okay, so here we are in the home screen for the MRCOOL app. And you get your list of devices here. In my case, there's two. There's the actual garage AC unit, which has its own device, like a USB dongle mounted inside. And then what's just called office, which is the thermostat. That thermostat's in my office space. I did set this up to be able to control it from here, but I never do. Let's go into the AC unit itself. So it's relatively cool out right now, so just have the windows open. It's not really running right now. You can make changes, set your fan speed. You can change, is it on fan? Is it on cool? Is it on heat? There's your fan speed there. So that's kind of low, medium, and high. There it goes. You can set a schedule, which I have here. So this is kind of like you can set your thermostat in your house. Schedule here. So I have it to come on at 8 o'clock in the morning and cool things down in here if it needs to. And it's just set to a certain temperature. Come back. And then 9 o'clock on weekends, I work here for my day job. So my day starts around 9 o'clock. So I want to give it an hour or so to make sure it cools down. But on the weekends, when I'm coming out here just to work on cars or something else out here, I'm not getting up that early. You know what I mean? So, and then when does it shut off? So that just flip it to fan mode. So it keeps circulating air, and especially this time of year when we've got the windows open, the fan can kick on at night. And so it doesn't really matter what the temperature is. The fan will circulate air and kind of get some of the fumes out of here and some of the smell. You know, it also is a shop, and it smells like chemicals and brake cleaner and carb cleaner and spilled antifreeze and whatever. So when you work in here all day on, at my desk, the smell gets a little pungent sometimes.
Stings the nostrils. Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline.
And the same thing on the weekends. Sometimes I'm in here a little later. Sometimes there's a lounge space out here. Since we'll hang out here and watch some TV. So I have it kick off a little later. That way, if I happen to be out here, it stays nice and cool. There's an e-saver, which can have all kinds of other options here. So you can set a vacation mode and configure what that is. And it's just a one click. Like I said, it's got the air filter warning. In fact, yep. It says I need to clean it now. So geofencing, where you can have it be activating based on just your location. So wherever the phone is. It's a pretty handy app. Like I said, you can do a lot of configuration with it, a lot of customization, I should say, with it. It does take, this is a good size space. So it does take, if it gets a little toasty in here, it'll take about an hour to cool it down. It's not fast because it's only blowing out of that one spot. So anyway, that's how the app works. So overall, I've been real happy with it. It's working great. I've had no leaks. I've had no real hiccups. I had one time where I didn't clean that tube out enough, and where that becomes evident is you get water coming out of here and dripping. And then just one day I hear this dripping noise and like, oh, it's dripping out of the AC. And that was my first clue that it needs to clean out the outside hose. Once I did that, it worked fine. It was actually quite easy to install. I'll throw a link to that install video. It really wasn't. Mostly it was just because I didn't know what I was doing. The indoor unit here hangs on a bracket. That hole I was pointing out outside is right behind here. Right. So like I said, if I had to do it over, I'd move that hole down a few inches so it'd be more in line with that outside wall. And there's plenty of space down here that I could have moved that down and had no issues. The bracket has plenty of holes in it to find a stud, so that few inches wasn't going to make any difference. So the two things I wish I would have done differently was that hole in a different spot and run that drain tube all the way out into, at least into the yard, away from the wood. I will probably put a coupler in there and run it into a small little gravel hole in the yard, almost into a crock of sorts. So I guess I would say, honestly, if it's something you're considering, these mini split units are relatively easy to install. I think of all of them that I looked at, I haven't, it's not like I've installed a bunch of these things, but man, this was pretty easy to install. It's a pretty economical way to do it. I'm not saying there aren't better ways, like a legit, outdoor unit with ductwork in here probably would be better. But from a cost standpoint, from budget, this works really, really well, and I'd highly recommend it. If you have any questions about this, anything you want to know, like there was some stuff that got left out of that first video because there were some recording problems. So if you have any questions on the install of this, hit me up in the comments down below. I'd love to help you out. But anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.